All right, hey folks, welcome back. Chris Garlock here with Michael Redmond, Nine Don Professional. This is game 50, is it not, Michael? If my counting is correct. Wow,
Exactly. Yes.
wow. Okay, and we didn't plan it this way. Obviously, we had nothing to do with it, but we have a very special player for this game, don't we?
Yes. Today's player is the human is Kajay. That's the player who played AlphaGo later the same year, in 2017. And this is his third game in the whole series.
Okay, all right. He's a very famous player, and we'll be looking at his games a little bit later on as well. All right, let's take a look and see how he does.
Okay. Kajay has the black stones, and he's playing the Chinese opening. So this is a very popular opening at the time. And I think this variant, this opening with the combination of it's something that had been played a number of times, and sometimes black would be playing a kakari against the lower right corner also, but Kajay is trying a moyo in the upper left, so he's his idea seems to be to start a fight in an area where he has an advantage. So, like for instance, I think we were seeing a number of games that proceeded something like this, and AlphaGo is doing this kind of stuff against, I think it was both of them. No, it wasn't. There was a Korean player and a Chinese player who got into something like this. And so this is something that I was saying, it looks sort of like Hoimbo Dosaku. And I once showed you a similar game played by Hoimbo Dosaku. So there's this thing that was happening, and you might say Kajay is avoiding that by starting his moyo a bit earlier than that. And white jumps in anyway. And white's playing exactly the same move here, only with this black stone, it looks like black has more opportunities to have an advantage in this fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of like the strategy that Kajay is employing here.
Okay.
And white plays this attachment. Obviously, if white just covers here, black is going to cut.
Right.
And although that's a split shape, those two stones on the top are in trouble. And so it's probably good for black. So in the game, white plays here. At this point, black's winning percentages are just fine. He's black, and with 6.5 point komi, black is supposed to start with a slight lead, and he's keeping it up to this point. One of the programs was suggesting this move for black.
Yeah, I like that move.
And white will probably just play here and something like this. Black gets, and it's a very typical computer-like way to play with the neural network systems. The computer does always like to keep the initiative, to take sente. So in this case, you can see black has taken sente to move to the lower left corner first. So it's very modern style. Top human players are also picking up on this type of play. So this would have worked. He didn't actually lose much in the way of score by playing this move. This move was playable also. It was fine. So white covers here, black cuts. Up to this point, black is doing just fine. Actually, with this move, he could have, it would have been slightly better for black just to simply connect underneath.
Uh-huh.
And this would have kept him above 50%. And when he does cut on the fifth line, he did go slightly below 50%. So like this would have been better. And white will do this kind of stuff. The hane here is troublesome with white threatening to push through here. So in this case, black will just answer like this. This is about even, and black could continue. A computer program would want black to continue with the 3-3 point in the lower right corner. That's I've marked it with A, or it could be B. Either way. Playing here in the upper right corner is also a fairly big move that black could play at this point. And this would have kept black above 50%. While this apparently sorry, cutting here apparently put him below something like 48%. It's still a very small difference. But Black's real mistake was against this move. He played too strongly here. So Kajay played this move, and AlphaGo answered it with a beautiful Tsuji. You want to guess the Tsuji, Chris?
Oh, I'm just looking at. I trying to read out things like I don't know, B16 or B15. I mean, that's probably way too
Yeah,
too clever by hand.
just leave it at B16. B16 is just the shape move. It's great.
Okay. Yeah.
So White plays here,
Right.
and this is really a bit awkward for Black, because later on White will still have the threat of attaching here, and so the corner is still not settled yet. So Black had to settle that corner with one move by playing here. And this would have been still a very close game. White would continue with the cut here, and Black will have to sacrifice this one stone, which sort of explains why, because they probably didn't like this, but Black has to sacrifice the one stone by playing here, and something like this. So Black gets that upper side territory, and you can see Black has not wasted a lot of time in the corner in this case. And now White will be moving out in the center, but the important point that I want you to remember is that Black has a nice position on the left side here that I've circled. That's going to be a Black territory. Black is still putting some pressure on the White group, and Black has a nice territory there on the left side. And you're going to see what happens to that territory in the game. Just to make sure, if Black does extend here, White will be doing this again, and it will again be it's a problem because these two stones are going to be in trouble. So for instance, if Black does this, Black's trying to save both sides, but it's just pretty hopeless with A and B being Miai now. And so once White plays that attachment, it's already just the fact that White is threatening to play an Atari here, or White is threatening to cover here and attack those two stones. So it's just not going to work for Black. That's why I had Black sacrificing one stone. In the game, so Black didn't like that. He didn't like the idea of sacrificing that stone, but when White plays here, it's really bad shape for Black. It's starting to look a bit ugly. And White jumps out. So White has to jump out first, and Black does have time to finish off those two stones. Now this is the most interesting point in this game for me, because it looks like AlphaGo made a mistake.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wow. So the game sequence was White played here, and the exchange of this move for this move killed White on the side.
Right, of course.
Without that exchange, White would not have been dead. And so there's something strange going on here. And after that, the game continued with White playing here, and Black gets the tempo. Black gets Sente to play this move on the left side. Yeah. This stone is a vital point. It's a shaped move that is extremely important for Black to get to first. Now, what if White had just played the bamboo joint? And this is so much better. And it's hard to understand why AlphaGo did not do that. In fact, I don't understand. And so White was supposed to be something like, White was about 56% and only losing by 4 points before Komi if White had played here. And it's going to go down a few percent. It's going to get close to 50, but just a slight advantage to White in the game. In this variation, White has a very small advantage, like 1 or 2% difference. And so obviously, what I think is happening, one interpretation that I have for this is that computer programs, they're okay if they have more than 50%. So maybe it's just that it doesn't matter to AlphaGo so much that it's made what I would call a mistake. It's not the optimal move, but it's not a losing mistake. Right. So if White plays here, Black will need to put one more stone in there, and White gets to play the key point. So this would be much, much better for White. Otherwise, if Black plays the key point, now we're going to see the difference, because in the game, we had this exchange which killed White, but actually white can push through here. And the extra cut there on the third line is going to make the difference. So like if this happens, it's not dead. In fact, this is going to be a problem for black. It's going to be something like a Seki or something. It's a bit troublesome for black. So in the game, white plays here, and I think KJ was just really happy at this point because he got Sente to play both sides, and it's looking like it's a fairly even game. He's doing fairly well.
Yeah.
And so he plays this forcing move, which I'm going to call this losing move, actually.
No kidding.
He plays this forcing move, and it wasn't forcing it. Like if he had played it at the beginning of the game when white had played that 3-3 invasion, it would have been forcing. Usually it's forcing, but right now we have this situation on the left side, which is still very, very hot. It's a hot spot. So black had to protect, maybe just here. Like this is the move that I would choose. Or maybe black could try to be a bit more adventurous with something like this, just chasing the center and just fixing the shape here and making this into a territory as much as possible. So again, I'll say this is the safe move, in which case black will get a territory here. And the score given by computer programs is something like 48% for black, so it's a reasonably close game. Like the interpretation is that maybe black's going to lose by 1 point or 1.5 points or something like that, or maybe just half a point. But the moment he plays here, it's going to turn ugly because white jumps in here. This is already just very bad, and like maybe he could have like the suggested move is here, but you can see already it's going to be a bit painful because white's going to cut off that stone in the corner. It's a bit painful for black to be giving up when black could have gotten the whole side. Black's going to be giving up this and still has to deal with capturing this stone and stuff like that. It's just like white got something for free there. So obviously it would have been better for black to have chosen this move. Usually when it's a human player, it's very difficult to choose a move that sort of admits that you just made a terrible mistake. It's sort of hard to choose the move that maybe it's the best move, but it goes into a position that is obviously bad than what you had just a moment ago.
Yeah,
it's very difficult to make that choice. So he played here. So he's taking the stance that he can fight this out, but actually it's just a very bad fight for black now. So again, black has to be playing to make a living shape, because I'll just show you the game moves now. It's going to get really, really bad. Like it's just falling apart. So at about this point, he's already losing before Komi. White's just going to tear him apart in this variation. It's just the fact black will be able to save these stones. Black will be able to save these stones, but there's this hole. White's alive on the side. White has the push there at the mark point, and so it's either this group that I've circled in the corner or this group. One of these two is going to die, and that's already pretty much. And you know, when one of those group dies, the remainder floating about in the center is going to be in trouble too. So white has a huge advantage in this quarter of the board too. White's going to be chasing black around and doing the usual AlphaGo thing. You know, refusing to kill the black groups and stuff like that.
Right.
So that's black. Actually, Kajay does keep it exciting. So in the book, maybe I'll go into more detail about stuff that happened from here on. But at this point, it's very, very bad for black already.
It's just that one. So he must have been feeling pretty good. If you just jump back to just before the losing move, he was doing so well.
Yeah, let's see. I'll just go back like this. He sort of got a present here because white lost a move there, and you would usually think that black must be winning. Like
I would.
the computer programs that I have, or like Kato was suggesting, but that black has only 48%, so maybe not. But if black had played this move, it would have been very close, like a 2% difference. Like 48% is a human player would think of it as dead even,
Hmm.
and that's how we would understand the position. We wouldn't realize. I wouldn't realize that black was losing.
Hmm. Now, just before we wrap up, I mean, this is, of course, in January of 17.
Yes.
So this was before Kaj's match against AlphaGo a little bit later that year, right?
In May of
Yeah,
2017,
2000,
KJ played a 5-game match against AlphaGo.
right? Yeah, and we'll be looking at those at some point as well. So
Right.
interesting. So this is a little bit of a sneak preview of that. So interesting. I mean, he shows I think some of his strengths, but also that switching off to play the move that was a forcing move
That was
early.
just a careless mistake, and it came at a point where he was probably suddenly feeling maybe a bit relieved or really good about the game, and that's when sometimes these things happen.
Yeah, yeah. And this is we've seen this a number of times before when a perfectly good player makes a move that you really can't even call slack. It's just a good move, but just poorly timed. And AlphaGo just takes over
Yeah,
and just runs away with the game.
it was just a momentary lapse.
Yeah, yeah,
Like if it was a teaching game,
right.
maybe the teacher would say, maybe you should think again about that move.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Michael. Look forward to seeing the rest of the commentary in the book. Thank you all for watching. Hope you're enjoying these. And we're in the home stretch here. We're doing all 60 games, and we'll see you next time.